Welcome to a space where 50 years of ancient mastery meets 21st century practicality. I am Osman the Blind Yogi, and I have spent 5 decades refining, testing, and simplifying the world's most powerful spiritual and wellness technologies. Today, I am giving away my entire life's work strategies that clients worldwide pay millions of dollars to access completely free. No gatekeeping, no premium paywalls, and no required initiations. Just pure, fast-acting transformation that you can self-initiate from the comfort of your home starting today.
Wow, I mean, that is quite the hook.
Right. Imagine just, hearing that. No paywalls, no, decade-long initiations in some remote Himalayan cave.
Yeah, just you and your breath.
Exactly. Just you, your breath, and these instructions that claim to basically rewrite your entire nervous system and, well, reverse cellular aging.
Which is a massive claim.
Oh, it's huge. And today, we are testing that claim. We're doing a deep dive into this system that promises to, hand you the keys to your own biological and psychological operating system.
And we really need to look at the man making these claims, right? Osman, the Blind Yogi.
Yeah, so let's get into his highly specific protocol to understand if and how this actually works. Because his background is wild.
It really is. The biographical context of Osman is, well, it's the lens through which we have to view all of his teachings, honestly.
Right.
Because since May of 2023, Osman has been permanently blind.
Which is relatively recent.
Yeah, exactly. And because he had normal eyesight prior to that date, he retains this really vast library of vivid visual memories.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so when you consume his materials, you immediately notice that he describes environments, anatomical structures, the movement of energy.
He's super precise.
Incredibly precise, like someone who can still physically see them. He translates that past visual knowledge into his current teachings.
So it's not just abstract.
No, not at all. He layers this internal sensory awareness over crystal clear external memory. It creates a teaching style that is incredibly grounded.
Grounded is definitely the word. Because, you look at his resume, and he is a master bioenergy healer, and his clinical specialization is strictly focused on critical care, right? Like recovery and terminal illnesses.
Yeah, severe stuff.
We're not talking about, generalized stress relief or weekend wellness retreats here. We're talking about systemic life-threatening conditions.
And that's where the claims get really intense.
Yeah, and honestly, this is where I have to throw down a massive red flag right out of the gate for you listening. Osman operates on what he calls his scientific paradigm.
Right, the 90% thing.
Exactly. He claims a 90% success rate in healing and energetic optimization. 90%.
It sounds impossible.
In the context of critical care and terminal illness. Yeah, that number sounds like a marketing brochure. Not a clinical reality. We're conditioned to view those kinds of statistics in alternative medicine with extreme skepticism.
And that skepticism is entirely warranted. A 90% recovery rate in critical care completely defies the statistical models of modern oncology, immunology, internal medicine, all of it.
So how does he even justify that number?
Well, to understand how he arrives at that, we kind of have to dismantle his premise. Osman posits that a 90% success rate is not an anomaly, and he's very clear it's not a miracle either.
It's just mechanics to him?
Pretty much. He views it as the natural, predictable consequence of optimizing the human biofield.
Okay, break that down for me.
So his argument is that modern lifestyles, chronic stress, poor sleep, processed diets, environmental toxins, all of that systematically depletes our natural bodily energies.
So we're just running on empty constantly.
Exactly. We are operating in a constant state of energetic deficit. And that deficit over time creates biological vulnerabilities that eventually manifest as severe systemic illnesses.
Oh, I see. So his paradigm basically dictates that if you replenish the deficit, the illness just, loses its foundation.
That is the absolute core of it, yeah. Now, he does utilize specialized remote healing methods operating on principles of quantum mechanics, right?
Like quantum entanglement.
Yeah, essentially the idea that particles can remain connected and affect each other instantaneously regardless of distance.
Which is a whole other rabbit hole.
It is, and he applies that to the biofield and vital energy transfer. But the most crucial part of his, or the part we are analyzing today for you, is his self-healing protocol.
Right, the stuff you can do at home.
Exactly. He states that if an individual strictly follows his structural protocols independently, their natural internal energy improves organically.
Meaning they don't even need him to heal them.
Right.
Yeah.
It boosts their immune function by 90%, without requiring external energy transfers from him at all. It's a systemic reversal of ailments achieved purely through focused, self-initiated practice.
Wow. Okay, so that really brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We're unpacking Osman's highly simplified, modified version of this advanced yogic practice called KRIYA.
Yeah, Kriya Yoga.
Right, which was popularized in the West back in the 1960s by Paramahamsa Yogananda. But Osman has filtered it through 50 years of his own really rigorous practice.
And he frames this all around his 4 pillars of the irresistible offer, doesn't he?
He does. And we are focusing heavily on the first 2 pillars today. Pillar 1 is this massive global cross-cultural synthesis.
It's not just one tradition.
No, he spent 5 decades integrating research from the Far East, the Middle East, ancient traditions, and, like you mentioned, Western science.
And testing it globally.
Right, on students across over 100 countries.
Yeah.
Then you've got Pillar 2, which is the power of absolute simplification.
Which is so rare in this space.
It really is. Traditional yogic and esoteric systems are notoriously complex, right? They're obscured by vague metaphors, formal initiations, tons of gatekeeping.
Yeah, you usually need a guru just to get started.
Exactly. But Osman's work strips all of that away. He deconstructs these massive spiritual milestones into this really accessible 4-step progression.
But, and this is key, absolute simplification doesn't mean skipping to the finish line.
Right, it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy.
Exactly. You have to start with the prerequisite. Osman is adamant that before you even touch the Kriya practice itself, you have to awaken the bioenergetic force.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, you can't sculpt the energy if you haven't, turned the power on in the first place. So he mandates a very specific mathematical ratio for breath work.
The 16.64.32 ratio.
Right. 16 in, 64 hold, 32 out.
Okay, the 16.64.32 ratio. This is a direct application of that cross-cultural synthesis, right?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't some modern invention he just came up with in a studio.
Where is it from?
Osman pulls this precise mathematical instruction from the ancient Tirumandaram, which was written by the sage Tirumula. Specifically, verses 568 and 572.
Which is deeply historical.
Very. In the yogic tradition, this exact ratio is designed for the systematic cleansing of the 114 chakras and the 72,000 nadis.
Including the Ida and Pingala, right?
Yes, the primary energetic channels. And the ultimate goal there is to safely achieve a self-generated Kundalini awakening, but without all those historical dangers usually associated with it.
Okay, let's strip away the Eastern terminology for a second here for the listener and look at the biological reality of what is actually happening.
Good idea.
Because 114 chakras and 72,000 nadis sounds incredibly esoteric, like magic.
It does.
But if we map that onto Western anatomy, aren't we essentially just talking about the nervous system?
We are. The nadis map perfectly to the peripheral and central nervous systems.
Right, and the Ida and Pingala represent the left and right autonomic dominance, don't they?
Exactly. The parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest system, versus the sympathetic, which is your fight or flight system.
Wow, so the correlation is pretty striking then.
It really is. When these ancient texts describe 72,000 energetic pathways, modern neurobiology points directly to the vast branching networks of nerves, the paraneural networks, and even the complex pathways of the circulatory and lymphatic systems.
What about the chakras?
The chakras correlate directly with major nerve plexuses and endocrine glands along the spine.
Like the solar plexus.
Exactly. The cardiac plexus, the solar plexus, the pituitary gland in the head. So when Osman instructs a 16-count inhalation, a 64-count breath retention, and a 32-count exhalation, he isn't just doing something mystical.
He's basically hacking the biology.
Yeah, he is applying a massive, highly calculated stressor to that exact physiological network.
Which I have to say, a 64-count breath hold is brutal. I actually attempted this at my desk while prepping for this deep dive.
Oh, you tried it. How did it go?
Awful. Just drawing a slow breath for 16 counts is difficult enough. But holding it for 64 counts, it triggers a deep, almost primal panic response in the body.
That's the CO2 buildup.
Yeah, carbon dioxide is building up in the bloodstream, and your brain is basically screaming for oxygen.
Well, you are intentionally triggering the body's chemoreceptors when you do that.
Right.
When you hold your breath that long, carbon dioxide accumulates, which actually lowers the pH of your blood, making it slightly more acidic.
Which sounds bad.
It sounds bad, but it actually triggers what's called the Bohr effect.
Oh, what's that?
It's a physiological phenomenon where hemoglobin actually releases oxygen much more readily to your tissues when the blood is slightly acidic.
Wait, really? So you're actually getting more oxygen to the tissues by holding your breath?
Exactly. You are forcing the vascular system to dilate. You are stressing the autonomic nervous system in a highly controlled rhythmic manner.
That's fascinating.
And then by extending the exhale to a 32 count, which is painfully slow, you are actively engaging the vagus nerve.
That's the nerve that runs from the brainstem down into the gut, right?
Right, through the abdomen.
Okay.
And engaging it forcibly downregulates the heart rate after the massive stress of that 64 count hold.
It makes me think of, like, revving an industrial engine.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, imagine a massive, heavy-duty diesel engine sitting in a freezing warehouse. You can't just hop into the cab and turn the key and instantly throw it into fifth gear.
It would break.
Exactly. The oil is cold, it's viscous. The metal components haven't expanded to their optimal operating tolerances yet. If you push that engine too hard, too fast, it will stall, or worse, tear its own gears apart.
You have to build the internal pressure first.
Right. You idle it, you get the fluids moving, you let the heat rise, and you rev it systematically until the temperature gauges hit that perfect optimal zone.
And the biological fluids in your body operate on those exact same principles of viscosity and pressure.
Like blood and lymph.
Yeah, your blood, your lymphatic fluid, even the cerebrospinal fluid bathing your brain and spinal cord, they all respond to mechanical pumps.
And the main pump is the lungs.
The diaphragm specifically, so those 21 rounds of 16.64.32 breath work are quite literally the revving of the human engine.
The diaphragm is just acting like a huge piston.
A massive hydraulic piston creating extreme intra-abdominal and intrathoracic pressure variations. And when you reach that 21st round, Osman instructs you to push the breath.
Like bear down.
Yeah, bear down. And the physiological result of this pressure building and releasing is what he describes as an explosive energy or a spiritual life force awakening.
So it's not magic, it's physics.
Exactly. You have forcefully cleared the blockages in the nervous system, what they call the navis, and primed the biological hardware for the actual work.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Let's say I follow the instructions perfectly. I sweat through all 21 rounds. I handle the crazy CO2 buildup. I do the final push, and I feel absolutely nothing.
No explosive energy at all.
Right. No spiritual life force, just, a mild headache and some lightheadedness.
Right.
Because in a lot of wellness circles, if that happens, the teacher would just say, well, you didn't believe hard enough, or your intention wasn't pure.
Blaming the student.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It becomes this really convenient excuse for a technique just flat out not working.
Right.
So how does Osman troubleshoot a failure to launch like that?
Well, this is where the strict science comes back in. Osman doesn't resort to mystical excuses at all.
So what does he blame?
If you only feel a trickle of energy instead of an explosion, his diagnosis is purely mechanical and biological. Your hardware is clogged.
Okay, clogged with what?
And the culprit is your diet.
Oh, of course. It always comes back to the food, doesn't it?
It really does. So if the energy isn't moving, he prescribes a mandatory dietary intervention. It's a minimum 7-day reset consisting entirely of a plant-based whole foods diet.
But why plant-based specifically?
Yeah.
Why not just do like a caloric deficit or fasting for a few days?
It comes down to the energetic cost of digestion. The human digestive system is incredibly energy intensive.
It takes a lot of work to break food down.
Huge amounts. Processing heavy meats, saturated fats, highly processed foods. All of that diverts a massive amount of blood flow and cellular energy, ATP, away from the nervous system and directly toward the gut.
I read somewhere that digestion takes up a ton of your daily energy.
It can take 20% or more of your resting energy expenditure just to break those heavy foods down. Furthermore, dense diets can promote systemic inflammation, which literally thickens the blood and increases the viscosity of that lymphatic fluid we were just talking about.
So the physical channels literally become sluggish.
Exactly. They get bogged down.
So this 7-day plant-based reset is really just about removing the digestive burden.
Yes.
You are basically freeing up biological bandwidth for the nervous system to use.
Precisely that. Plant-based whole foods are rich in water, fiber, and micronutrients that require significantly less energetic output to break down and assimilate.
They just pass through easier.
Right. You are calming the gut-brain axis, reducing systemic inflammation, and literally thinning the biological fluids. You're clearing the physical channels so that when you apply the hydraulic pressure of that 16.64.32 breath work, the awakened energy has a clean, frictionless pathway to travel upward through the central nervous system.
Now, the really fascinating part of this dietary rule, to me at least, is that Osman says it is primarily just for the beginning stages of the practice.
Right, the initial clearing phase.
Because we are constantly sold this idea that a strict diet is this permanent, unbreakable lifestyle chain if we want to be healthy. Like you can never eat a burger again.
Yeah, that's the standard wellness narrative.
But Osman claims that once this Kriya energy is fully awakened and surging, the diet actually ceases to be a dampening factor at all.
He views it purely as a matter of physics and momentum.
How so?
Consider a small, slow-moving stream, right? If you throw a few handfuls of dirt and rocks into it, you will easily dam the water and stop the flow completely.
Right.
That small stream is your energy on a heavy diet before you start the practice. But if you have a raging torrential river, you can throw a massive boulder into it, and the water will simply violently rush over and around it without losing its forward momentum.
I see. So the sheer force of the awakened energy just becomes too dominant. It just overrides the sluggishness of the digestive system entirely.
The life force energy, once it's established as a dominant upward current in the nervous system, is just too immensely powerful to be suppressed by occasional heavy foods. But that initial clearing phase cannot be bypassed. You must establish the torrential river first.
Okay, all right, so let's say the engine is revved. The 21 rounds are complete, the channels are cleared, and we have this massive bioenergetic surge moving through the nervous system.
The energy is live.
What is the target? Like, why go through this grueling physiological process?
Well, Osman points the crosshairs directly at the subconscious mind.
The subconscious.
Yes, and the statistics he cites here completely dismantle our daily perception of reality, honestly. He states that 95% to 97% of human actions are controlled entirely by the subconscious.
97%.
Yeah, the implication of that number is profound. It suggests that the concept of free will, as you and I experience it day to day, is largely an illusion.
Let's visualize this for a second. Imagine you are standing at the helm of this magnificent ocean liner. Okay. You are wearing the captain's hat, your hands are gripping the wheel, and you are just shouting orders to the crew. You turn the wheel left, you turn it right, and you feel incredibly empowered.
You're in charge.
Right. You truly believe you are steering the vessel. But deep in the hull of the ship, totally disconnected from your wheel entirely, is this massive, silent autopilot system.
Steering the actual rudder.
Yes. And that autopilot was programmed decades ago. It was programmed by your childhood traumas, your societal conditioning, the way your parents argued when you were 7, you know, the micro failures you experienced in high school.
And modern neuroscience supports this analogy heavily, by the way.
Really?
We call it the default mode network, or DMN, in the brain.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's the network of interacting brain regions that is active when you're not focused on the outside world, when you're daydreaming, or when you're reacting automatically to something.
So it's the autopilot.
Exactly. Implicit memory, cognitive biases, ingrained heuristics, all of these operate milliseconds before your conscious mind even registers that a decision needs to be made.
Milliseconds, so you don't even have a chance to think about it.
Nope. The captain at the broken wheel only represents the 3% to 5% of actual conscious processing power.
That is terrifying.
It is. The remaining 95% to 97%, meaning who you are naturally attracted to, what foods you crave when you get stressed out, how defensive you get when someone criticizes you, even your upper ceiling for financial ambition, all of that is dictated by the autopilot.
So a life where 97% of your actions are pre-programmed reactions to the past. That is a life with zero actual freedom.
Exactly.
And this is where Osman's first pillar, you know, the global synthesis, really shines. He is flawlessly mapping Eastern yogic science onto this Western psychological framework.
The synthesis is completely seamless. In Western psychology, we refer to this as, clearing out subconscious baggage, rewiring trauma responses, breaking conditioned behavioral loops.
Right, neuroplasticity.
Yes, neuroplasticity, the brain's physical ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. But in the ancient yogic sciences, this exact same psychological landscape has been mapped for thousands of years, just using different vocabulary.
Like what?
Well, they call these deep psychological impressions samskaras. They describe vrittis, which are the constant, uncontrolled fluctuations of the mind. And they speak of karmic past actions, which, when you strip away the mysticism, are simply the ingrained emotional inclinations tied to repeated past behaviors.
Wow. Because Hebbian learning in modern neuroscience says neurons that fire together wire together.
Exactly.
So a samskara is literally just a heavily myelinated neural pathway created by a past trauma or a repeated action.
It's the exact same map, just written in a different language.
That's wild. Osman describes the mind as a vast, clouded ocean. And this ocean is churning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thousands of emotional responses, past inclinations, and just random thoughts are constantly bubbling up to the surface.
And that churning never stops, not even when you close your eyes and go to sleep.
Really? Not even in sleep?
No. Osman notes that in a typical 8-hour sleep cycle, you might only achieve about 2 hours of proper deep rest where the mind actually settles into delta wave frequencies.
So what's happening the other 6 hours?
The rest of the time, the ocean is still storming. You are dreaming, you are processing, the subconscious noise is still generating anxiety and actually reinforcing those neural pathways while you sleep.
Which perfectly defines the entire purpose of the KRIYA practice.
Yeah.
Because KRIYA is not a relaxation technique, is it?
Not at all.
It is not about sitting quietly and thinking peaceful, happy thoughts. It is a highly engineered biomechanical mechanism designed to literally empty out this subconscious reservoir.
Right. The explosive bioenergy generated by the breathwork acts as a massive filtration system for that clouded ocean.
Like a power washer.
Exactly. By pushing this high-voltage energy through the central nervous system, you are violently forcing the brain to disrupt the default mode network.
You're short-circuiting the autopilot.
Yes. You are introducing a chaotic, high-energy state that physically breaks down the rigidity of those myelinated samskaras. It clears out the subconscious baggage so that perhaps for the very first time in your adult life, you can make a choice using 100% of your cognitive capacity rather than just reacting blindly from the hidden 95%.
Okay, but introducing a chaotic, high-energy state into the nervous system sounds inherently volatile.
Very.
I mean, if the KRIYA is effectively fleshing out 95% of a person's deepest trauma and psychological programming using a massive surge of biological electricity, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is exceptionally volatile. We were dealing with dominant life force energy here. History, both ancient and modern, is rife with examples of individuals who attempted to awaken this exact energy without proper preparation, containment, or structural safeguards, and, well, they suffered severe lasting consequences.
Yeah, Osman specifically highlights the risk of psychosis, and we really need to look at what Kundalini psychosis actually is clinically, because it's not just feeling a little spaced out after meditating.
No. In traditional literature, it is called Kundalini syndrome. Clinically, it can present as severe autonomic dysregulation.
What does it look like?
When this massive energy gets stuck in the nervous system or rushes to the brain in an unbalanced, ungrounded manner, the symptoms are terrifying. Practitioners experience intense physical tremors, extreme temperature fluctuations, literal burning sensations along the spine, depersonalization, derealization, and severe emotional volatility. Modern medicine often diagnoses these individuals with brief psychotic disorders or manic episodes, frequently resulting in psychiatric hospitalization and the prescription of heavy antipsychotic medication just to artificially suppress the nervous system.
Yet, amidst all those well-documented dangers, Osman drops a statistic that is almost impossible to believe.
His track record.
Yeah. In his 44 years of teaching yoga and meditation to students across over 100 countries, he claims a 0% failure rate in this specific regard.
0%.
0 students experiencing psychosis. 0 needing psychiatric help. 0 requiring medication due to his practice.
And that track record really points to the absolute precision of his simplified method and, more importantly, the non-negotiable safeguards he puts in place.
Right. He doesn't let you just wing it.
No. He attributes this safety to 2 primary factors. The first is the role of the master. Osman highly recommends connecting with a teacher because a master, operating on those principles of quantum entanglement and biofield coherence we mentioned earlier, can energetically clear blockages in the student's nervous system remotely.
Like they act as a buffer.
Yeah, they can impart spiritual energy to ensure the advancement is smooth, essentially acting as an energetic shock absorber or like an external grounding wire for the student.
Okay, I understand the quantum entanglement theory for remote healing,
Yep.
but for you, the practitioner, sitting alone in your living room, the second safeguard is purely physical and mechanical, right?
Yes.
It is a mandatory physical containment posture called siddhasana.
And the physical architecture of that posture is where the strict science of his protocol becomes really visible.
I have to admit, when I first reviewed the sources, my Western bias definitely flared up here.
How so?
Well, if we're talking about quantum entanglement, clearing subconscious neural pathways, and elevating internal bioenergy, does it really matter how I fold my legs?
It sounds trivial.
Right.
Right.
If the work is all internal, can't I just sit comfortably on a nice supportive chair or in a normal, relaxed, cross-legged pose on the couch? Why is this specific Siddhasana posture a non-negotiable requirement?
Because the energy you are generating has a physical reality. It interacts directly with your biomechanics.
Okay.
Osman's instructions for Siddhasana are exacting. You must bring your left heel firmly into the perineum, applying direct physical pressure.
Ouch.
Then you bring your right leg over and wedge the toes of your right foot securely between the calf and the thigh of the left leg. And the left leg just rests.
You are literally tying your lower body into a knot.
It is a mechanical lock. It is an engineering solution to a biological problem. To understand why a normal, relaxed, cross-legged pose completely fails here, we have to look at the volatility of the energy again. Osman describes this awakened force as dominant.
Right, it's highly pressurized.
Let's use an analogy.
Go for it.
Imagine you are working as a technician with high-voltage electrical lines. We are talking about, say, 10,000 live volts. You wouldn't strip the ends of those wires and just let them dangle loosely over a wooden workbench.
Of course not.
The current is far too strong. The electricity would arc through the air. It would jump to nearby conductive metals. It would blow out the transformers, and it would probably start a catastrophic fire.
Right.
When you are dealing with high voltage, you need heavy-duty grounding cables and specific locked conductive pathways to channel that power safely into the grid without it escaping.
I see where you're going with this.
That is exactly what Siddhasana achieves. It is the grounding circuit for your biological high voltage. When you sit in a normal cross-legged posture, your physical base is loose, your pelvis is open, the energetic circuit is totally ungrounded.
And when the energy hits,
When that massive dominant force surges up through the nervous system, if there is no physical lock at the base, Osman warns that the energy will overpower you.
because it has nowhere to ground out.
Exactly. The physiological symptoms of a short circuit in the body begin to manifest. Hyperventilation, involuntary muscle spasms, the inability to concentrate, and eventually the panic responses we associate with Kundalini syndrome. You physically and energetically lose control of it.
But when you lock the body into Siddhasana,
When you apply the left heel firmly to the perineum, you are directly stimulating the pelvic floor, which is intricately connected to the pudendal nerve and the lowest branches of the parasympathetic nervous system.
oh wow.
You are physically sealing the lower gate, creating a closed-loop kinetic chain. By wedging the toes between the calf and thigh, you lock the joints, providing continuous proprioceptive feedback to the brain that the base is absolutely stable and secure.
You complete the circuit.
Yes. The posture physically contains the surge. If you refuse to learn it just because it is uncomfortable, your nervous system will simply reject the higher frequencies of energy, and your advancement will stall completely.
So absolute simplification does not mean doing whatever feels comfortable on the couch while watching TV.
Not at all.
It means doing exactly what is mechanically required to survive the process, with zero extraneous fluff.
Precisely. The structure is what creates the safety.
Okay, so the prerequisites are met. The engine is revved via the 16.64.32 breathwork. We understand the subconscious target. We are physically locked and grounded in the high-voltage circuitry of Siddhasana.
Ready for the main event?
Yes, we finally arrive at the exact execution of Osman's simplified Kriya breath. What is the mechanism of action here?
The mechanics of the actual breath are shockingly straightforward, perfectly embodying Pillar 2. While locked in Siddhasana, you take a very deep, slow inhalation. Osman personally uses a count of about 25 for this in-breath.
Wait, are there complex visualizations? Like colors or chanting?
None. Just a deep, controlled intake of breath, drawing the energy up the spine. Then comes the critical moment, the push.
Like the prerequisite round?
Similar to the 21st round of the prerequisite practice, yes. You push the breath and the internal pressure very hard for as long as it is comfortable. You are actively forcing the energy into the upper centers of the brain.
And then comes the exhale. Based on Osman's warnings, this seems to be the most dangerous part of a micropractice.
The exhale is highly, highly sensitive. You must breathe out incredibly slowly. Osman uses a strict count of 20 to 25 for the exhalation to ensure maximum control.
So the speed of the exhale basically dictates the safety of the entire round.
Because you have elevated massive amounts of energy and blood flow into the upper centers of the body, when you exhale, you are initiating the descent of all that energy.
Think of a massive industrial pressure valve on a tank of highly combustible gas.
Good analogy.
If you need to normalize the pressure inside that tank, you crack the valve open slowly, like millimeter by millimeter. The gas hisses out gradually,
Yeah.
and the internal pressure equalizes safely with the outside atmosphere.
Right.
But if you walk up to that tank and yank the valve wide open instantly, the pressure drops violently. The sudden imbalance destroys the equilibrium, the pipes shudder, the temperature plummets rapidly, and you can cause a catastrophic mechanical failure within the system.
And the biofield operates on those exact same pressure dynamics. When you hold your breath and push, you are performing a variation of the Valsalva maneuver.
Which does what, exactly?
You are significantly increasing intrathoracic pressure, which physically alters venous return to the heart and stimulates the baroreceptors in your arteries. If you breathe out too fast, if you yank the valve open, the pressure drops far too rapidly.
Blood pressure tanks.
Blood pressure fluctuates wildly. Osman warns that the energetic charge drops in an unbalanced manner, getting stuck in the bodily channels. This sudden drop can cause physical headaches, intense energetic blockages, and severe emotional irritability.
Nobody wants that.
A slow 25-count exhale engages the parasympathetic nervous system, ensuring a smooth, controlled, systemic descent of the energy back down to the base of the spine.
But the single round of KRIYA doesn't actually end when the lungs are empty. There's an integration phase that follows, and this part fascinated me.
It's very unique. After the complete exhalation, you do not immediately loop back into the next inhalation.
So it's not like Wim Hof or something.
Right. This is not continuous rhythmic hyperventilation like some modern breathwork trends. You must pause, rest in the stillness, and count to 100.
Sitting in a breath pause with empty lungs for 100 counts feels like an eternity when you were doing a dynamic practice. Why the mandatory wait?
It is a vital integration period. You have just surged a massive amount of life force and electrical activity through your central nervous system. Osman states that this pause allows the volatile energy to permeate your entire body, literally electrifying the cells.
Okay, what does electrifying the cells actually mean on a biological level? It sounds a bit woo-woo.
It does, but we can look at the piezoelectric effect in the body's fascia for an explanation.
Piezoelectric.
Yes. When you apply mechanical stress like the extreme pressure of the KRIYA breath to the crystalline structures in your connective tissue, it literally generates electrical currents.
Wow, so you're making electricity.
Furthermore, at a cellular level, you are altering the electrical potential across the cell membranes. The mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells, are adapting to the acute hormetic stress of the breath hold and release.
You are saturating the physical tissues with this elevated frequency.
Exactly. You have to give the biological hardware time to adapt to the massive software upgrade you just forced into it. By counting to 100, you allow the autonomic nervous system to fully stabilize and calm down. You ensure the biofield is completely grounded before you initiate the shock of the next round.
So just to recap for you listening, the deep in-breath, the push, the incredibly slow 25-count exhale, and then the 100-count integration pause, that whole sequence constitutes one single round of KRIYA.
Yes.
That is the micro-level mechanism. But to understand how Osman scales this to achieve his 90% success rates in terminal recovery, we have to zoom out to the macro level.
We have to talk about momentum.
Right. We have to look at the physics of momentum and the strict science of daily dosage.
The macro level is where the real physiological alchemy happens, and Osman issues a very stern warning regarding momentum. You must not miss a single day of practice.
Not one day. Which is crazy because most fitness or wellness protocols advocate for rest days, right? They tell you to take a day off to recover.
In this energetic paradigm, a day off is destructive. Osman extrapolates that missing a day doesn't just stall your progress. It isn't just a pause button. If you miss a day, the energy actively slides backward.
It is the myth of Sisyphus playing out in the nervous system.
Oh, that's perfect.
You are pushing a massive, incredibly heavy boulder up a steep hill. As long as you keep your shoulder firmly against the stone and keep taking steps forward every single day, you build momentum. It actually requires slightly less effort to keep it moving once it has kinetic energy.
Right.
But the moment you step away, the moment you decide to just take a Sunday off to relax, the boulder doesn't just stay parked halfway up the incline.
Gravity takes over.
The gravity of homeostasis takes over. The boulder rolls backward, crushing the ground you just spent weeks covering. When you return on Monday, you have to expend an enormous amount of metabolic and energetic capital just to push the boulder back up to where you were on Saturday.
And gravity, in this analogy, is the crushing weight of your daily stressors, environmental toxins, and that 97% subconscious programming we talked about, desperately trying to pull your neural pathways back to their familiar, heavily myelinated default state.
He wants to go back to sleep.
Yes. You are actively pulling a heavy life force up the spine against that gravity. To keep the energy spiraling higher, to permanently rewire the default mode network, daily consistency is absolutely non-negotiable.
Which naturally brings us to the dosage. How many rounds of this Kriya breath do you actually need to perform to push that boulder over the crest of the hill?
Osman provides a really clear scale of dosage. 12 rounds is the absolute bare minimum, and that's reserved only for days when you are incredibly rushed, literally just to keep the boulder from rolling backward.
Maintenance mode.
Right. 24 rounds was the daily baseline recommended by Paramahamsa Yogananda. Osman himself averages about 50 rounds on a standard day.
But then he introduces this concept of the sweet spot, the threshold where reality, biology, and cellular aging begin to fundamentally alter.
And the sweet spot is 100 rounds.
100 rounds of this intensive breath work. He says this takes him roughly 2 hours to complete every single day.
2 hours, yes. And it is at this 100-round threshold that Osman notes a massive systemic shift.
What happened?
At 24 or 50 rounds, you are achieving excellent stress relief, mental clarity, and energetic maintenance. But at 100 rounds, you cross a hormetic threshold into substantive self-healing.
Wow.
This is the sustained dosage required to trigger the systemic reversal of physical ailments and, remarkably, the reversal of cellular aging.
Reversing cellular aging. I mean, that is a colossal claim.
Yeah.
Telomere lengthening, cellular senescence reversal. These are the holy grails of modern longevity science.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars are poured into this.
And to back up this claim, Osman shares a deeply personal, physical anecdote about his own body, and it perfectly encapsulates Pillar 1, the cross-cultural synthesis in action.
Tell us about that.
It is a highly revealing medical case study of his own biology. Osman is a devout Muslim. As part of his faith, he observes the mandatory daily prayers, performing them a minimum of 5 times a day, and he usually adds a recommended 6th prayer late at night.
Okay, and Islamic prayer involves dynamic physical movement, right?
Yes.
It involves prostration, going down onto the floor, resting the body weight on the knees, and bringing the forehead to the ground.
And Osman had been executing these prostrations 5 to 6 times a day, every single day, for decades.
That's a lot of wear and tear.
The repetitive mechanical stress took a severe toll on his joint health. Over time, the cartilage in his knees completely wore out.
Oh, no.
The protective cushioning degraded, exposing the underlying nerves in the joint capsule.
The bone-on-bone friction would be absolutely excruciating.
It generated severe, chronic nerve pain. It became so debilitating that he was forced to actually modify his religious practice.
How so?
He had to fold soft towels and place them on top of his prayer carpet just to cushion his knees sufficiently to endure the physical act of prostration.
Just to pray.
Yeah. He lived with this chronic pain and physical degradation for years, all while maintaining his baseline practice of 50 rounds of Kriya a day.
Which presents a fascinating paradox here.
It does.
We have Osman, a master bioenergy healer, who claims a 90% success rate in healing critical illnesses in others. So the obvious question for you, the listener, is this. Did Osman use his quantum entanglement techniques, his telepathic capabilities, or his bioenergy healing hands to fix his own knees?
And he explicitly clarifies that he did not.
He didn't.
He didn't perform a targeted energy healing session on himself. He didn't place his hands on his knees or focus his conscious intention on regenerating the joint tissue.
Then how on earth did he cure a purely mechanical, degenerative joint issue?
He simply altered his daily Kriya dosage. He increased his practice from 50 rounds a day up to the sweet spot of 100 rounds a day.
He's changed the dosage of his breathing protocol. That's it.
That is the only variable he changed. And within exactly 3 days of hitting the 100-round threshold, the cartilage in his knees automatically regrouped.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. Regrowing degraded knee cartilage in 72 hours. That stretches the boundaries of physiological believability to the breaking point.
Oh, I know, it sounds crazy.
Cartilage is avascular. It doesn't have its own blood supply, which is exactly why it famously takes months or years to heal, if it ever does. How can a breathing practice regenerate avascular tissue in 3 days?
It is an extreme timeline, but we have to view it through the lens of systemic biofield optimization rather than localized allopathic tissue repair.
Okay, unpack that.
While true avascular cartilage regeneration in 72 hours contradicts standard physiological models, what likely occurred was a massive acute shift in the joint's localized environment. The intense 2-hour daily KRIYA practice at 100 rounds dramatically alters systemic inflammation markers and blood oxygenation.
Ah, I see. So perhaps it wasn't that the cartilage grew back an entire centimeter thick in 3 days.
Right.
But rather that the massive influx of bioenergy and oxygen drastically reduced the severe inflammation in the joint capsule, altered the production of synovial fluid to instantly lubricate the joint, and mobilized localized stem cells to begin rapid repair, effectively eliminating the pain receptor signaling altogether.
Exactly. The intense sensitivity vanished completely. The biological environment of the knee shifted so rapidly that he no longer needed the folded towels at all.
Wow.
He found he could perform his prostrations on a hard floor without even a carpet, experiencing absolutely zero pain.
It is a stunning illustration of his synthesis. His devout Islamic prayer practice intersected perfectly with the ancient yogic Kriya science.
They worked together.
Right. The Kriya didn't interfere with his religious theology. It biologically enabled him to physically practice his religion without pain.
And it serves as the ultimate proof of his scientific paradigm. The systemic biofield energy, when elevated to the 100-round threshold, naturally boosted his body's immune and regenerative function.
It wasn't a magic trick.
No, it wasn't a targeted magic trick where he tried to heal his knee. It was an organic, systemic overflow of life force that naturally flooded the areas of highest biological deficit, repairing the physical degradation of aging just as a byproduct of optimizing the whole system.
Jeez. Let's step back and synthesize the immense amount of ground we have covered today. We've journeyed through an incredibly dense, highly engineered protocol. Osman, the blind yogi, has presented us with a system that proves a very difficult truth for the modern wellness industry to swallow, which is absolute simplification does not mean easy.
Not even close. It means structured. It means removing the ambiguity of mysticism and replacing it with the precision of a biological formula.
Right. We started with the incredibly demanding 16.64.32 breathwork, utilizing extreme CO2 tolerance and vagal nerve stimulation to rev the biological engine.
We explored the mandatory 7-day plant-based reset required to remove the digestive burden and clear the physical plumbing.
Yeah, and we discussed the critical necessity of safely locking the physical body into siddhasana, utilizing the perineum and closed-loop joint locks to ground the high voltage and prevent kundalini psychosis.
We broke down the mechanics of the slow, pressure-regulating exhale and the 100-count cellular integration pause.
This is a highly optimized scientific approach to spiritual technology. It is literally a step-by-step manual for flushing out the neural pathways of the subconscious and triggering physical regeneration at the cellular level by hitting the 100-round momentum threshold.
It is a remarkable testament to 50 years of dedicated mastery and cross-cultural synthesis. But as we bring this analysis to a close, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final concept to really mull over, something that builds on everything we've explored today regarding human autonomy.
Let's hear it.
We spent a significant amount of time unpacking Osman's assertion, backed heavily by modern neuroscience and the default mode network, that 95% to 97% of your daily actions, your choices, and your emotional reactions are currently dictated by an invisible, cluttered subconscious mind.
We're just passengers on the ship, watching the wheel turn.
Yes, living on autopilot, constantly reacting to ancient traumas, implicit memories, and deeply ingrained societal conditioning. So my question to you is this. If this simplified KRIYA actually works, if you could consistently apply this 2-hour daily practice, generate that explosive bioenergy, and successfully filter out that vast, clouded ocean of your subconscious, what would your life actually look like tomorrow?
Oh, wow.
If you suddenly went from operating on 3% freedom to accessing a 100% true, unclouded, conscious free will, without the historical baggage, without the automatic trauma triggers, without the invisible hand of your past steering the wheel, who would you actually choose to be?